Hi, Aston here from the Now Spinning group on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, nowspinning.co.uk. This time we're going to look at these Kate Bush box sets, Volume 1 and Volume 2. They are currently on an absolutely stupendous price on Amazon. This one is about 25 quid and this one is down to £39. They were literally nearly £80-90 each. So they've really dropped. I think the reason for that probably is because they haven't sold as well as they would have thought. But I'm not going to review the music because we all know these Kate Bush albums. I'm going to review the packaging and the presentation of these box sets. So let's have a look inside. As I said earlier, I'm not going to be reviewing the music because everyone knows the music very well. This is basically looking at the boxes and the presentation itself. So this is the first one. It's a nice glossy box. If I was going to say anything about it at this stage, it is that they've made it so it opens from the bottom, which means that as you pick it up, it automatically opens. I'm sure this would have been much better if it had come out from the side. The other quick observation is, as this is the first part of Kate's creative output, is that the kind of semi-naked man with a fish head on an office chair, I'm not quite sure if that's the kind of art that you'd expect for the first batch. Personally, I would have thought it would have been something based on the artwork of the first few albums, but nevertheless, here it is. So this contains the Kick Inside, Lionheart, Never Forever, The Dreaming, Hounds of Love, Sensual World, and The Red Shoes. There's a little leaflet inside it which shows you them all opened out. And so here they are. Now the first thing that you notice when you open them up is that they're not square. They're kind of like the old deluxe editions that you used to get with the plastic outer covers. They all open up the same way in digipacks. The obviously label imprint is Fish People, which must be why we have that guy on the front. The other thing I'd like to say is that they all come with very, very minimal booklets with the lyrics, but no background information at all. From a historical background, no notes from Kate on what was going on at the time or what her thoughts were. And I do think that's a bit disappointing because in the live album that she did more recently, she waxes lyrical about the process and how she came to do the shows, etc. So you would have thought you would have had at least a page of insight from Kate. I'm not going to compare them to the originals, but there isn't really a great deal of difference in what you got all those years ago for those of you who bought the original CDs, really. So what you're getting here is the remastering, and the remastering is very, very impressive. It has brought them up to date, although you have to remember that Kate's albums production was always very, very good anyway. The photography has been tweaked and it looks better than it did on the original pressings. Okay, the next one is Lionheart, and this is a good example of how crisp the photography is on these. There's a quote from one of the songs on each panel, on the third panel. The booklets again are kind of sort of landscape, which means that some of the actual artwork has been cropped only a little bit, and you basically again you just get the lyrics with no background information on chart positions or what she was going through at the time, anything that would have made a bit of a difference really. Next is Never Forever. This one, the artwork spreads over into the third panel, which I think is a nice touch. In fact, wouldn't you imagine if this had been on the cover of the box, the outer box, the kind of hybrid of the first three designs or four designs, I think it would have been so much better. And again, they're all minimal booklets. The only thing you've got is that James Guthrie has done the remastering, otherwise I think it's exactly the same on all of these. The Dreaming is probably the one that is affected the most by the cropping of the having landscape, because down here on the vinyl there's a lock, so you can understand she's got the key in her mouth and there's a lock down here, but the way it's cropped you can't quite make out that there is a lock there at all. But this, The Dreaming, is the most mad of all Kate's albums, so if you're new to Kate Bush, this may not be the best place to start. It really is wacky and completely insane album compared with the others, but she is very much an eccentric and one of a kind. But the quality of the sound on all of these is very, very good. Now this brings me to probably the first one where I do have an issue with, I guess. It's a brilliant album. This is actually, well, it probably is for many people, my favourite Kate Bush album. And unlike the other remaster of this, again, it's just minimal stuff, but there is something on this that's peculiar in some ways, which has upset some people. On the back cover, I don't know if you can see this, the Big Sky is the 7-inch mix. Now why she's done that, I don't know. On the previous remaster, you even get an essay on how the album was doing and what people thought of it, so you've got some historical background. So why we couldn't have had that, I do not know. And we've obviously got more photographs in the previous remaster, and we don't have the 7-inch version of the Big Sky. Because actually, you know, we have these extra tracks as well, so I don't know why that happened, why she decided to do that, you know, at all. And she doesn't stop there, because this is even more peculiar when we go to the next one, which is the Sensual World. I bought this when it came out on CD, because CDs were really in then, so, you know, it's on a digipack, that's fine. And just like the other CD, it's just got the lyrics, etc. But where this really is odd, as you notice, it finishes on this woman's work, whereas the original finishes is walk straight down the middle. Now apparently she's taken that off because it was an extra track and she didn't want it to distract from the whole album. But the fact is, in 1988 when this came out, that track was just one of the tracks on the CD. It doesn't say anywhere that it was an extra track. It just was part of the Sensual World. So it's very, very strange that she's taken that track off and actually then popped it onto the rarity box on volume 2. So that's just odd to me that she did that. And then we have the last one, which is the Red Shoes. I mean, some of the imagery or photographs is different than the previous editions, but overall you don't get any real extras. So the main thing I'm going to say is this box is £25, and for this, you know, quality digipack and the rest of it, and it's a substantial box, you know, for £25 it's well worth it. But I mean, it came out originally, it was well over 50-60 quid, wasn't it, which it certainly wasn't worth. So that's the first one, which brings us to this one, which a nice touch on the top, which is with the sound of the bird song, etc. So again, a different design. The box isn't as big, but it cost even more. This was nearly £80 when it came out. Again, a little bit of paper showing you what's in it. Now this is where I really think you know, there's an issue with this really, because why we couldn't have had, this is exactly the same, what I'm going to say, this is exactly the same as the previous release of Ariel. The packaging is exactly the same. Why they couldn't have made it into a little booklet style, I don't know. And the booklet itself is exactly the same. The The only difference is where it says it's remastered by James Guthrie in 2018. Of course, the other big difference here is that Rolf Harris has been removed from that track, and her son Bertie has replaced his voice. And you wouldn't notice the difference, to be honest. It doesn't change anything, and that's obviously something Kate wanted to do. But you know, the packaging is exactly the same. You know, that to me is a little bit lazy, because it could have been put into, you know, a little hardback book, which I'll show you with the others now. It would have made more sense. For example, this kind of booklet that 50 Words for Snow had. And again, this is exactly the same. If you've already got this, there is no difference at all from a word saying James Guthrie somewhere. It's being remastered. How much you'll tell the difference? Some people have said the difference is dramatic. I don't know. It sounded pretty damn good anyway. But yes, you know, to me there could have been a little bit more done on the booklet there. Next up is Kate Bush, the director's cut, and this again is exactly, if you've bought this before, there is absolutely no difference apart from the fact it has been remastered. And then we have the live one. So if you've recently bought this, this is exactly the same. This hasn't been remastered because there's absolutely no reason to, as it's only just come out. And this again is where Kate Bush actually talked. This has got a more substantial booklet. She talks about the album, the production process. She goes into a lot of detail, and it would have been very nice if she could have given that kind of insight, or even had a separate booklet that was an overview of her whole creative output, perhaps. And that leaves us with the other side, which is all the rarities. Now, the thing I have with this is that we have 4 CDs, of which the music would fit onto 2. Maybe she just wanted to separate them. But the other thing is, of course, is that the lack of creative stuff for the actual photographs here. I mean, we've got the same image used for each one. I mean, surely the Kate Bush archive has got tons of photographs you could have used, really. So no booklet at all. We've got the 12-inch mixes, and then we've got the other side, which are again rare tracks, and then we've got again some more B-sides, etc. But there's not that much, I don't think, that's never been available before. And then we've got the cover versions at the back. So good stuff, but I think it's kind of been a kind of missed opportunity. Now, the prices of these at the moment make it so it's well worth the money. If you love Kate Bush and you haven't got all of her stuff, then these are well worth it. I'm not going to say that they're not. But they certainly weren't worth the amount of money that they were when they first came out. The other thing I would say is that it would have been great to have had a DVD with all the promotional videos perhaps included. And if you can get them at the price that I've mentioned at the time of doing this video, then I would certainly say go get them. They're well worth it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.